A few weeks ago, Fiddler Audio released Gravitas, a multi-channel dynamics plugin designed to be used both as a regular plugin as well as an insight into Fiddler Audio's Dolby Atmos Composer. I've already created a few videos about Gravitas, and I'll include links in the description below for those who want to learn more. What sets the combination of Gravitas and Fiddler Audio's Dolby Atmos Composer apart is the addition of a mastering channel to the Dolby Atmos production setup. Previously, there was no dedicated mastering step in Dolby Atmos production, but with Gravitas, that has changed. And that's already great, but until now, you needed to use Fiddler Audio's Dolby Atmos Composer as a plugin in your digital audio workstation to access that mastering channel. This limitation meant that you couldn't remaster an already exported Dolby Atmos master file. Fiddler Audio has now released a standalone version of the Dolby Atmos Composer called the Mastering Console for Dolby Atmos. This Mastering Console includes all the features of the Dolby Atmos Composer, including the mastering channel that allows you to add Gravitas Dynamics processing to the mastering step. With the standalone mastering console for Dolby Atmos, you can now remaster a Dolby Atmos master file without having to load it into a digital audio workstation that supports importing master files, and there are actually not that many that can do that. Everything can now be done within Fiddler Audio's mastering console for Dolby Atmos, and this is what we're going to check out today. In this video, we'll be working with a short master file that would benefit from some pumping action using sidechain compression. We'll add that effect using Gravitas as an insert in the mastering console for Dolby Atmos. This is going to be a fun one. Let's dive in. Before I get started, a quick reminder to hit the like and subscribe buttons. We recently reached 25,000 subscribers, and I think we can do even better than that. And I should also point out that Fiddler Audio has provided me with a free license of the Dolby Atmos Composer as well as the Gravitas plugin. However, this is not a sponsored video. In fact, Fiddler Audio doesn't even know that I'm making this video. And with that being said, let's jump into today's project. So I opened up the Dolby Atmos renderer, and let's just have a brief listen what we have here. Now, the master file that I'm going to use is one that I've created in Studio One with the native Dolby Atmos rendering capabilities of Studio One. So there was no Fiddler Audio Dolby Atmos Composer involved in the creation of this master file. And it is a master file that many of you might already have heard if you're watching my channel regularly. It's a couple of loops that I usually put together for demonstration purposes. So let's just open that up. So we are going to open up the master file, and the one that I'm using here is called demo, and let's just play that so that we get some idea of what we are dealing with. And as you can hear, essentially it is a very simple loop. And the idea now is, what I want to do is I want to have a little bit of a pumping action in the Atmos bed as well as in the synth, because I have the feeling that it sounds a little bit too straight and a little bit too bland. And we are going to use the Fiddler Audio mastering console for Dolby Atmos for that purpose. So let's close the Dolby Atmos renderer and let's open up the Fiddler Audio mastering console. So here we have Fiddler Audio mastering console for Dolby Atmos, and let's open that up. And all we really need to do is we need to import our master file. So let's press the import button here. This is the master file. And then we have the master file. Now we do have a couple of options here. Let's just go into the monitoring section and check out that everything is okay. And let's play the audio here. Everything sounds okay. Now, in case you don't hear anything, you can do the audio device setup. I'm sending everything into the Rodecaster once again so that you guys can hear anything or can hear everything. And then what we want to do is we want to add some sidechain compression, and we want to kind of use the kick as the detector signal for that sidechain compression signal or for that sidechain compression. And the kick, if you look at the individual objects that we have here, the kick sits at channels number 11 and 12, and the keys essentially are 15 and 16. We don't want that to be affected by the sidechaining, and everything else, which is the bed, so the first 10 channels, and then channels 13 and 14 should be affected by the sidechaining. So Let's get started. So all we really need to do is we need to go into the master channel. So here we have the master channel, and here we can add additional modules. Now, as I said in previous videos, I'm assuming that Fiddle Audio is going to come up with a couple of additional modules. At the moment, the only module that we have is the Gravitas Dynamics Processing module, and that's what we're going to add. And then let's just open that. And here we have the Gravitas Mastering or the Gravitas Dynamics Processing module. Now, I'm not going to go over all the details with respect to Gravitas. If you're interested in that, I recommend that you watch one of my previous videos where I went through everything that you can do with Gravitas. All we're really going to do here is we're going to set up our side chaining. And for that, we need to make the input configuration. And for the input configuration, what I want is I want the detector signal to be just the kick, which was object 1 and object 2, and everything else should be not part of that detector signal. So let's deselect everything. Well, let me first kind of unlink the detector signal from the input selector so that we can kind of select them independently. So I'm going to deselect everything in the bed, and then I'm also going to select objects 3, 4, 5, and 6, because those, once again, should not be part of the detector signal. And in the input selector, that is essentially the channels that are going to be affected by Gravitas. I want to have everything affected with the exception of the kick itself, which is objects 1 and 2. And then I also don't want to have the keys affected, because those should not really be pumping in any meaning of the word. So let's just deselect objects 5 and 6, and that is pretty much it. And then essentially we're just going to set everything up for the sidechaining. Now I want to only react the sidechaining to the low end of the signal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unlink the detector filter from the input processing filters so that I can essentially just kind of select what filter I'm going to apply to the detector. And let's just kind of move that down there so that we have, kind of something like this. So we're only going to react on the low end of the kick. And then I'm also going to deselect auto gain, because that's going to be actually counterproductive in these particular applications. So let's just play and see essentially what we can do. So we see the detector signal reacting to the kick, and we have the compressor here. So let's maybe kind of restart that, and let's just play around with our compressor. And that sounds actually pretty good. Now I could obviously, for demonstration purposes, make that a little bit more extreme, so let's maybe do that. So let's play that again. So let's leave it like that. So that's probably a little bit more than I would normally do, but kind of just for demonstration purposes. And then the last thing that we need to do is we simply need to export that in order to create a remastered master file. So let's press the export button, and I can give it a name. So let's call it test. Kind of. I call everything test. And there we have it. It's already exported. So let's close the mastering console and let's reopen the Dolby Atmos renderer. And here we have the renderer. So let's open up the Dolby Atmos renderer, and let's open up the master file that we have here. Here's the test file. Let's open that up. And we should now hear the same thing, only this time with sidechain compression added. And here we have it. And that is actually really, really cool and really excellent that you can do that. And I'm really excited to see what Fiddle Audio is going to do next, because quite frankly, this is extremely, extremely useful. And I think a lot of music producers are going to be very excited about that, because it now allows you to actually kind of take an existing master file and remaster it in any way, shape or form you want. And you can use the Gravitas Dynamics plugin obviously also to kind of change the gain on certain channels, on objects. The one thing that you can't do, and that is on purpose, you cannot change the position of the objects. If you want to change the position, what you would need to do is you would need to load the master file into a digital audio workstation that can load it in. So something like Nuendo, for example, or also DaVinci Resolve Fairlight, and then you can change, work with the positions. But here, this is really just meant for kind of regular kind of master channel level processing that does not kind of change the panning of the objects. So if you are working with Dolby Atmos, my recommendation is to check this little plugin or this little application out, because it might actually be of great value for you. And that's everything I wanted to say today. Thanks again for watching my videos. I truly appreciate it. If you have any questions or comments, please use the comment section below or join us on our Discord server for a chat. An invite link is in the description as well. With that being said, see you all at the next video.